Welcome to Launch Your Private Podcast. Today's episode, we are exploring the world of evergreen sales using private podcasts with Nicole Culver, the CEO of Elevate. Nicole has masterfully combined her skills as a mindset coach and former teacher who is here to change how founders approach business. In this episode, we explore her private podcast, The Evergreen Experience. You may have seen her ads on both Facebook and Instagram. This has become a cornerstone of her lead generation. Running for nearly a year, it successfully brought in well over $300,000 and continues to engage quality leads on autopilot. Join us as she shares her insights, tools, and mindset strategies that allow her to record a podcast in an afternoon and use it to her advantage for a year with no updates. I think you guys are going to like this one. I know a lot of people ask about ads and private podcasts. Well, sit back, relax, and make sure you grab that pen. We are back with another case study episode. You guys, if you have not seen Nicole Culver's face all over Instagram or Facebook, I know that at least is as my case and Nora's. We were talking about it just before. Nicole's running ads to a private podcast, which I don't think we've actually had a guest officially who has ran ads directly to a private podcast. So we're going to talk about that. It's definitely a question we get in coaching calls and stuff. So we are going to go deep with Nicole today because she is going to share all the fun metrics, stats, reasons and choices behind her podcast, which is called The Evergreen Experience. That is her private podcast. And now you might be like, oh yeah, I've totally seen those ads. Well, we got the girl behind the ads with us today, and we're really excited to chat with you, Nicole. Welcome.
Thank you. That's so funny. No, I don't. People tell me, oh, I get your ads all the time. It's totally my husband's fault because he's the Facebook ads manager. So we can blame him. But yes, we love ads. I'm actually really surprised you just said no one runs ads. Like, run ads to your podcast.
Run them. Yeah. I don't know that no one runs them. I know people have tested different things at different parts in the Hello Audio kind of journey. I know like Emily Hirsch's clients have done some. But I've seen yours running for a long time. So that usually is a good sign in our world that things are working. And we definitely get people asking about like how to name it. And so we'll get into that with you, how to talk about something like a private podcast. So yeah, let's start at the beginning, okay? Because Nora and I both don't know your story, your background, and a little bit maybe about your business as well. Tell us where you learned about private podcasting and why you decided to add this to your business model. So kind of weave that all together.
Yeah. So I've had a regular, like, weekly podcast. I actually used to do 3 episodes a week since 2016. So I've been like, yes, woo. That's how I feel too. So I would always get questions like, oh, where do I start on your podcast? And at this point, I have like hundreds of episodes. And then I'd be like digging through, and I'm such a CEO visionary that I did not have this saved anywhere. So literally every DM, I'd then be going back to my podcast and be like, I'm here. And after just getting that question so many times, I was like, I think I need a podcast that is just on evergreen. That is just one topic. Because with my regular podcast, we talk about mindset, we talk about business, it was just like, as podcasts are, they're just kind of all over the place and they're not niched down. So just after getting that question so many times, I was like, I just need something that is bingeable, that can like build trust really quick and be a quick start to finish that is around one topic. So it really came from just being like, I get this question so many times. It's taking up so much of my time to then be going back to my regular podcast. And it really came from my people and from just, I can't answer this question one more time.
As the best stuff does, right?
Yes.
As the best offers come. Cool. So, okay, I love that. And so at that time, you're thinking, I want it to be gated. I want this to be something. Yeah. So talk us through that process a little bit too, because I have seen, you could have made a separate series, right? That could be public and out there. Tell us about that thought process and decision.
We are all about getting quality leads into our business. That's like literally what we teach. That's our number one program. We have been running Facebook ads since the dawn of time, quite literally. I quit my teaching job in 2011. We were doing,
oh, dang.
Like, we were literally doing like ads. We were like liking, like my page back in 2011 when I
joined my Facebook group.
Yes. million%. We were running those Facebook ads for my health coaching business and for my food business. Then we started running ads for other people. So we always have been about like, I don't have the biggest audience, but I will crush you because I know exactly who my person is and we're all about quality. So it really came from the place of just like, okay, I want to get quality people who are already at the point of looking to solve a problem. I have 3 kids. I don't have a whole lot of time to work. So I was exhausted by trying to convince people to work with me. So I want to talk to the person who's like right on the edge, who's already searching for a solution, who's like, I'm between this and this. I'm not looking for the person who doesn't even know they have a problem. So I don't even remember what the question was at this point because I'm on a
No,
big
you're
tangent.
good. Going.
This is perfect.
But that is why we created the podcast around like, okay, let's get people in who are quality and who really are searching. And we do so much free content. We have so many things that are not gated. We really wanted this to be like the anti-webinar. And that's really and I can talk about how I think about it and how I created it. But my intention was this is going to be like a sideways webinar where every episode is going to hit the points that you need to hit on a webinar. And I want people to sign up for that because I want to be able to contact them and I want to be able to see if they want my help.
This should be
Love
like
this.
an 8-part episode. I'm sitting here
I
being like,
know.
okay, like we could talk about the construction of the podcast. We could talk about the construction of
Yeah.
the funnel. Clearly, like there's a lot. Okay.
The question came back to me as I was like, oh, I remember the question. Okay, gated. I got back there.
Yeah. You did. Good job. Cool.
I love it.
So
I was just curious how you found Hello Audio and why you ended up choosing private podcast because private podcast is not super mainstream and it definitely wasn't when you kind of initially started this. So I was curious where you heard the concept and how you got started with that.
Yeah. Okay. So I knew I wanted it to be. Let me back up. With our brand, with our business, my intention for 2023 and for this year was around creating experiences because I know that with the rise of AI, and we can talk about this, we can go in whatever direction you want because I'm going to like totally throw a wrench or like go in a different direction. I know that I need to be doing something completely different than everyone else. And how am I going to elevate and offer a different experience than what other people are doing? So I wanted it to feel special. I wanted it to feel like something that they were like, I was in their ear, but it's not something you can just go find. And I just attached the word secret onto it because I wanted it to feel like I'm sharing it with my best friend. This is a secret. This is between us. And honestly, when I looked, I was just Googling and I knew one other person that was already on Hello Audio. And I was trying to do it on Libsyn because I already have Libsyn. And I was like, oh, I could do it. And I actually set it up in there, but it didn't give me the option to be private. And I just wanted to, people ask me this all the time, why private? I wanted to feel like an experience. And that's why it's called the Evergreen Experience because I want it to feel like it is something special.
I love that. Oh, yeah. And I think we've heard this a couple times, just the exclusivity of it. Throw the word secret or exclusive or members only, subscribers only. We've heard a lot of different, it's called a lot of different things, but it makes it feel more intimate and more exclusive. And that means a lot to an audience.
And I don't know if I don't want to bring like gender into this, but just like with your friends, when you hear the word like, oh, secret, it just makes you go, whatever. There's some psychology behind it, obviously, that it just makes you go, tell me about this. And that is the whole thing that I want to create for my people is just like, I want them to say, tell me about it. I don't want to have to be shouting from the rooftops. My 8-year-old said to me the other day, my 11-year-old was FaceTiming with her friends. She got her volleyball teams. And I was like, oh, should I go up there and like listen? And I said, I'm going to go sit next to her. And my 8-year-old was like, Mom, no, you can't do that. And I said, why? I'm a cool mom. And she looked at me and she goes, if you are cool, you do not need to say you are cool. And I was like, oh, okay. And there's just that element of just like, okay, I'm not going to say it, I'm not going to shout it, but I want you to feel like you're a part of something. It is cool. And I just think that you have nailed it when it comes to that of creating like a secret, cool, special experience. And it was like, we're very like frugal with what we come down to with like our monthly expenses, and we're really big on profit margins. And I was like, do I really want to add one more thing? But if this generates like enough interest, enough trust, I am so confident. And I did have to sell my team on adding another thing to it. And it was just hands down like, and my husband, I could tell you this too, because in month 2, he was like, I don't think it's working. And I was like, you do not get to pull the plug on this. It is working. And then by month 3, he was like, okay, yes, we started to really see the return on that.
Okay. So we need to talk about the funnel. I do want to hear about like the private podcast construction too. So we'll like put a pin in that. But let's talk about this funnel that's going right now. What's the offer? And then like, how are you doing the target? If you want to talk about the targeting, give us the inside scoop. Maybe not secret, because you could get the secrets for Evergreen over on your podcast, but give us what you can behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm such an open book. There really is no secret, but whatever, go listen. You can listen to the podcast. So the funnel is, I think it's super, super simple. We have ads running to the podcast. We have some video ads. We have some plain text ads. We have some picture ads that we've been running. We started in March. So it's just about the year point. And then on the thank you page, it goes to a $22 audio bundle, which is meditations, which is also hosted on Hello Audio. And then they listen to the podcast, they go to the podcast, and then they're basically they're on our email list. And then they get an opportunity to apply for our program, which every single episode says like audio bundle, apply for the program, audio bundle, apply for the program. I'm really big on not gating what I have to offer. So like the podcast is gated, but I am all about repetition. I know that people need to hear things over and over again. So in every single episode, in every single show note, in every single email we send, if you want our help, here's how to get it.
That's awesome.
That's good. And that's what we've talked about that before, like especially the construction of the private podcast. If they're doing the upsell with the audio bundle, do you sell them in the first episode, right? And so some people are like, oh no, I want to wait to the last. And it's like, why not just upfront say, because that's that first moment, that first episode is going to have the most listens, particularly the beginning of that. So like, why not be honest? So I love that you're saying that's how you construct it, because I think that's a question that a lot of people have. Okay, cool. So, oh my gosh, it's almost been a year. That makes sense. That's why we've seen your ads, right? How's the funnel doing? I think we have some of the results that you submitted for us, if you want to share some of the details of that too.
So I should have collected numbers, but there actually is a bonus episode on the Secret Podcast that tells you at the time we recorded it, which was months ago, exactly how much money we had made from this. But it is well over $300,000 that we have made from that podcast. We have a high ticket offer. It's $15,000, but not every person, at some point in our funnel, even after they buy, every person listens to that secret podcast. So it is just a huge trust builder. And what happened was, I'm always looking at like, how do I speed up the buying process for the right person? And when we started launching the podcast, we started just anecdotally hearing like, oh, when Dan, my husband, and my sales team, oh, I listened to the podcast. Oh, and then people started using the language in the podcast because we have very specific terms for what we do. And then they started using the terms, and that just started building. And I started paying attention to it more and more. And then finally, you can see it when we get tags. We have our tags set up in ConvertKit. And every time we get a new buyer, we look at, okay, are they tagged the secret podcast? And maybe they don't come in as that, but even after they're a client, when they want to learn our language, they will go back and they will listen.
That's huge. I think that's massive. And I'm curious. So that I have a couple questions here. I think one is, because this is new, because this is unfamiliar, and the question we get all the time is, okay, so if I run ads, how do I know people will know what it is? How do I know, like, are
Mm-hmm.
they going to be confused? And then there's this question of, what do I call it? Is it a secret podcast, a private podcast, an audio series? Like, and, we've seen it called a lot of different things, and a lot of different things will work. So, did you have that concern
No.
that people would, and did you have that experience?
No, because the longer you do things, the more you know, the more I get out of my own way and just make a decision. None of it matters. And
Yes.
that is like my one piece of advice. It doesn't freaking matter what you call it. You get behind the name and that's it. Like
Mm.
energy, if you are excited about it, other people will be excited about it. No one is thinking about it as much as you do. So the faster, and I tell this to my clients all the time, the faster you make a decision and the faster you record those episodes. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what I even said in those episodes. I recorded them in less than 3 days in my daughter's bedroom. I have no idea what I said. I know it works. Usually I will update things like 18 months later if it has worked. I don't need to update them right now. So I don't know. I scripted it out slightly in bullet points for each episode and I got on the mic and I spoke. So overthinking is hurting you.
Mm.
I love
That's
that.
huge.
So
I want to
true.
say too, I think you really know your person, because I think for someone like you to say, yeah, like it doesn't matter what you name it, you can name it anything, but your offer's good. Like a lot of people really want to know that. And I think sometimes people struggle with it and say it's not working. They don't understand what a private podcast is. But it's possibly the other stuff, the
Yeah.
messaging, like their
I don't know what they're
understanding
going
of
to
their
get out of
audience,
it.
their
Yeah.
issues. Yeah,
Mm,
exactly. And so
A
I do want to
million,
highlight that.
a million percent. And everything comes down to your offer. Literally,
Mhm.
like, no one wants to talk about it. It's the least sexy thing in the world. But like, if you have a bad offer, your entire business is going to suffer. And what I will say though, because I want to give a glimmer of hope, if you do a podcast and people don't understand it and they're telling you that, that is the biggest gift that you will ever receive. So you just take that and you run with it and you then make changes from it. But if you don't do something, you
Mhm.
don't know. So it is better. I am so much more passionate about putting something out there that may or may not work and getting the lessons that you need. And that's the only reason why I'm here today. I didn't sit on my couch, talk to no one to get to this point. Like I've been doing this 12 and a half years. Do you know how many people we talk to every single week? Like you can't train for a marathon from your couch. So you just gotta get out there and just do it.
It's true. I wish you could train for a marathon from the couch, but that is very much
If
not the
if
case.
Nora invents
Yes.
that, she's gonna
I've
leave
tried.
Helmani up.
I've run a half marathon without training, and I do not recommend it. Yeah, that was not the smartest decision. I absolutely love this. I'm curious, when you are running, do you look at metrics? Are you
Oh my gosh,
looking?
obsessed.
Okay, I'm curious. So tell
I'm
me
like, she
what
has to be
I
obsessed. I can
know.
tell.
Some people don't. They're just like, hey,
Yeah.
it's working. I'm getting sales, and that's good enough. But I'm
Mm.
curious, like, are you looking at? Are people listening to every episode, or is there a drop off? Or
There's
talk to us
totally
a
a
little
drop
bit
off.
about that.
There's always gonna be a drop off. And I might ask actually you this question because I also know like the first episode's auto downloaded and then the rest aren't. So of course there's gonna be a drop off. I'm not so concerned with the downloads on the episodes as with the metrics around the rest of the
Mm.
funnel.
Yes.
So like our lead cost started going up in Q4, which is totally normal
Yep.
that it will go up in Q4. So I added a video ad and I just went right to camera. I think I was holding my water bottle for whatever reason. Hold something in your ads. It's so silly, but like talk and hold a water bottle and your costs will be less. There is some magic.
So real. She drinks water too.
Was it a Stanley Cup though? I
It
mean,
might have been
really,
that.
that's really what we got to
I
test.
know. Everyone
I
wants to
love it.
see the color of your
Yes.
Stanley, which I don't know, is it past the prime now? I don't know. I might need to record
I
ad
just upgraded to something different, so it might be.
So anyway, so we're always looking at the metrics and saying, okay, well, if our lead costs are creeping up, then what else can we try? We're never like, oh, let's give up on this.
Mm.
We'll change the hook, we'll change the image, we'll add a video onto it. But like, if I know my content is so freaking solid and it's helped so many people and it's gotten sales, then before I scrap anything, I'm going to do my darndest to like put every new spin on it under the sun.
Oh,
Awesome.
that's really important. I just like
Right?
want to highlight that,
Right.
especially as somebody who ran ads and hasn't in a long time. Yeah, like your offer is good. It has converted in the past. There might be something that we need to change. There's something in the way people are consuming social or like what's the latest trend? It changes quarter to quarter, month to
Yep.
month, like who knows? And so not scrapping the thing is such a huge, especially if it's already working. I think a lot of
Mhm.
business owners do that with their courses. Like they have a course, they have a launch that doesn't go good. Oh, this course doesn't work anymore. And it's, whoa, let's think about other things. What problems are people having right now? What are they thinking about? What are they worried about? Like all of that. And I think it's so important. And I love too with audio. What I love about this is audio is one of the easiest things to just kind of like redo if you need to. And you haven't touched it this whole time because it takes someone from point A to
Mhm.
point B and builds that trust even if they're already customers. So it has value even past that kind of initial transaction. And so just highlighting, and I think that's something that's really special about audio. I don't think like an ebook, right? That pulls somebody into your world that a client's
Yes.
checking that ebook again. That doesn't make sense, right? So there is something really special about your voice, like your storytelling and the way you present it. I think with audio that makes that personal connection. So let's talk about how you kind of organized the podcast and how you knew what to include in that as you thought about the customer journey for where you want them to end if they're a $15,000 client potentially.
Yeah. Okay, so first things first, and we didn't say this before, I probably should have said it, but I think it is if you are intending to sell things today, the more niche down you are and the more specific you are about what you do, I think you will just have more success. I'll caveat this. If you have a huge audience, if you are already a big brand, then you can maybe get away with not doing this. But if you are not, like we still have a small audience and we have helped a lot of people and made a lot of money because we're so niche down. So I knew when I wanted to do it, I wanted it to have the word evergreen in it because my people are looking for that word.
Mhm.
I've done so many, like my regular podcast is called The Shift Show. It's so broad. What does that mean? I don't know. I have to explain it. So with the secret podcast, I didn't want to have to explain it. I want you to know Evergreen Experience. It's going to be about evergreen sales. No explanation necessary. So that's the first thing is if you're intending to do this to build trust with your audience so you can sell now or sell later, my 100% advice is don't be cute and be clear.
Mm.
Like clarity always wins 1,000,000%. And then when I thought about it, I really thought about what I would want to achieve when I'm doing a webinar. I want them to get to know me. I want them to build trust. I want them to understand that I am a legitimate person who's been doing this for 12 and a half years and I have experience and I've helped other people too. And then I wanted to expose them to my proprietary information, which is my frameworks. So I think we have 3 episodes where I teach them like 3 very special things that other people are not doing. So we have a whole lead system called the rich niche. And that phrase right there has made us so much money because people come to us and ask us, I want to target the rich niche. So there's 3 different episodes that say like this is what I can get inside Nicole's world. That's it. And then we talk about objections. So it's really like the objections I hear. My audience is too small. How can I do evergreen? I don't know if I'm ready for this. And I think we do 3 episodes basically around the objections we always get. So I want to overcome them before they get even further into my world. So basically, you take a webinar and you look at what are the points I would hit on the webinar? What are the different sections of a webinar basically? And I just did 1 episode on each of those.
I love that. I'm curious what feedback you've gotten from folks that have gone through it because, like you said, you've curated this experience, right? This is something that most people probably haven't experienced before being this private
Mhm.
podcast because it is kind of new and it is different. Have you received any feedbacks or feedback emails or what people thought about it?
Yeah, the feedback has been so positive. I mean, if they don't like it, they don't tell us. So that's good, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, every time, I mean, we do live trainings every single week as part of like our nurture experience. So they find us because of the secret podcast. And that's the thing, because there's no risk in downloading a podcast. There's no risk in pressing play. And also, like, my first episode is a few minutes long. Like, people will spend a few minutes with you. That is such a
Mhm.
great way to hook them in, especially right now. If you ask someone to spend 4 days with you on a live training for multiple hours, like, I'm not going to that. I don't have time, but give me a private podcast. Give me a podcast. I will hang out with you. I will get to know you and I will listen to you while I'm making dinner. But like,
Mm.
3 days, 4 days. I don't have that kind of time to then decide if I want to spend more time with you.
Mm.
And
And neither
and
does your audience. Like they
that's
want
true.
to evergreen, right? Like that's what they're
Exactly.
waiting for. They don't have time right now. They're busy and they need to make this more streamlined. That's so
Mhm.
good. I don't think I've ever, Nora, correct me if I'm wrong, heard anyone say that it's risk-free to listen to a podcast. I like that. I like that
Yeah.
framing. I'm trying to think about it totally lands. I'm like, yep, you're 100% right. And it's not that downloading an ebook is like risky or anything. I think it's like risk free and you know exactly what to do. And you're like, oh, I'll actually do it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
So it's
more
like risk free and motivating, maybe because like they're like, oh, this is something I'll actually do. Like
yeah.
there's so
And
many things I've downloaded that I don't do.
right. Just think about it in terms of our day, at least my daily life right now. To get me to read a PDF, I have to take out my computer because it's too small on my phone. So, like, I'm not really going to do that necessarily during work hours, but I'm not going to do it. Like, you already lost me. With the podcast, okay, I can do that. I can literally throw it on while I'm doing my hair in the morning. Like, I can be doing the multitasking of it makes it so low risk. I don't have to wait until
Mm,
A, B, and C, all three of my kids. If your person has to wait to take action on your free content, you're putting up such a wall between you and them versus the podcast. It's, oh, let me listen to 30 seconds right now. Let me see if I like it.
Yep.
It's so genius. Like, you guys need this. It's so genius.
It's one of the biggest things, yeah. And we talk like it's all the pockets of time that you
hmm
otherwise wouldn't be able to
hmm
reach people during the day, right? And that's it. You nailed it. That's exactly why this works is because it expands your ability to reach people
Hmm.
anytime, anywhere, at their convenience and their normal flow, right?
Hmm.
Which I think is what we need as people get busier and busier and they've got more to do. This is how you reach people. So I love
And
that it's working for you as well.
And I
Yeah.
think too, like, I mean, we know the average landscape of online marketing and we're seeing show up rates like plummet right now.
Yes.
That's why our word is like experience, creating experience. But like when you see, I can't tell you how many groups I'm in where they're like, my show up rate was 5%, my show up rate was 10%. Do you know what I don't think people realize, like, do you know what you're asking of people to get
Mm,
them to show up live on your schedule? I don't want to ask people to show up on their schedule. I want to give them, sure, we still do things live. Of course we do. And we have a podcast so you can get to know me on your schedule, not on my schedule. So I don't think people realize like what they're asking of people. And it's fine to do that. Of course, we still want to do that. But for top of funnel content, for you to get to know me, to see if you even like the sound of my voice, because if you don't, then you're probably out. It's just so good. I don't have to take you out of your environment for you to listen to me.
So, as somebody who's done a lot of funnels, how do you feel about this private podcast version compared to some other stuff that you've done over time?
I like to think of it as an ecosystem.
Mm,
I offer multiple things so you can decide what works for you because I just want to give people options. And that's why I don't think there's any one right way to do things right now. But I know my people are busy. So for the people who are like, hey, I want to see what you're about, and I don't think that I can sit down, like, I haven't earned their trust enough for them to sit down with me. Like, let's start with a podcast. It's like dating. Like, you want to go out for coffee? That's what I think of the podcast. So I do think about it as an ecosystem. You want to get a little more serious? Then like go watch this 20-minute video. So I like to have things at different lengths and different options for people as they like date me. Basically, like that's the best way to put it is I don't want to be a one-hit wonder for you either. I'm not just going to have one thing for you. I want you to come into my world. I want you to date me. I want you to get to know me. Some people are ready to like get married a little faster. Some people need a little bit more time. And it's all okay. I don't want to convince or rush people into it, but we have an ecosystem for that reason.
I love that. Yeah. Audio just fills a gap. And I feel like that's what we felt when we were building Hello Audio was like, man, we just don't use this medium in the way that we could be using this medium. And like podcasts are great, like public podcasts are awesome, but wouldn't it be cool if like all content could be? Yeah. So you're definitely making us really excited when we talk to users who are using it and like in the way that we imagined it to be used. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So you already touched on this a little bit, but if you're talking to someone who wants to launch their first private podcast what advice would you give them? And I know you have also a lot of advice because this is kind of what you teach as well, but like what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's putting it out there? We've touched on it a little bit, but I don't know if there's any other thoughts you have around that.
I'm just going to say what works for me. I work really well with time constraints. I will lose. If you gave me 4 months to do something, I'm not going to finish it. That's just like, I will forget about it. But if you are like, do this by next week, I will have it done within 24 hours. I am like a powerhouse when I have a deadline. So give yourself a deadline and do everything in your power to stick to that deadline. Like, that's my biggest advice is all around time. The rest will unfold and you'll learn things. If you do not know your audience like the back of your hand, then my advice is, I don't know, like 1950s marketing advice. Go talk to someone on the phone. Like literally get someone on the phone and have a real conversation with them and use that information to then build your podcast. There's so many different ways you can do it. You can do it how I said of like a webinar type of thing, or you could almost just do answering questions from your people. I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on yourself for the first time. I have a lot of, like you said, I have a lot of years under my belt creating content and doing podcasts and recording things. If this is your first time doing something, don't expect and don't put the pressure on yourself that it's like the last thing or needs to be like the most perfect thing. Just like get it out in the world and give yourself permission. Like, hey, I may need to come back and add to this, change it, edit it. So deadline, get it done is my two biggest things, and talk to people so you can make sure that that it's done.
Awesome. Do you have a private podcast idea that you're like wanting to launch or something? Is there something you're sitting on? Because I feel like you're pretty creative and innovative in the way you run your business. What are you thinking about?
That's funny. I do actually, but it's not ready to birth yet.
That's okay. That's okay. Could you give us a hint on like maybe? Because I feel like I don't know, our like typical user, the one that like really uses Hello Audio, we have the one we're hanging on to. We just haven't figured exactly how we want to put it in the business yet. I have one for Hello Audio that's like, it got a cover. It's got some of the first episodes. I haven't launched it yet. Like I'm just chilling. So just do it.
Okay,
Just
yes,
fun.
I totally do. I'll tell you I'll tell you exactly what it is, but it does not have any legs yet. I'm also really big on just knowing what my focus of this season is. And we're about to do a live event in March. So that's where my energy is.
It's huge. Yeah.
I'm really big on like honoring the season you're in. So I don't know, maybe I'll go away and like record this, but I really want to do a behind the scenes of what it really is like to be the CEO of a 7-figure business, like the realness behind it. I'm trying to like find a way to be as transparent as possible. And this is where I stumble because I am the CEO and I'm also the content creator and the social media manager. The social media manager, I am like, she should be fired. I am not great at that. at that role. And we have hired for it for a lot of different reasons. And I have so many ideas, but I don't have the creative power to get them into the world in the way that I want them to. So I have this idea that I want to do this and really show, like, everyone thinks when you reach this magical number of 1 or 3, whatever the number is, that you're just like sitting on clouds and there's no problems. And like, I don't know, we're like eating ice cream from the beach every day. And that's not, I don't know. I haven't found that yet. So I really want to do that, but I haven't figured out, it's not ready. It's not ready to come out yet.
Yeah, but it's like brewing. I think that's that would be an epic podcast. I really do. I think people would really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm in like collection. I'm like just like soaking things in, like the questions that I'm hearing, that I'm getting asked. And it will, like, for the Evergreen Experience, you knew, like, inspiration hit. That's why I recorded in 3 days. There was no pressure. It was just like, it came through so fast, so easy. I knew what I was doing. If I tried to do this right now, it would be like pushing rocks up a hill. Like, it's just not ready.
Yeah. Nice. You're working on it. You're mulling on it. It's chewing.
Yeah.
I'm like that too. And then one day it's just going to like pour out probably.
Yeah. I'm like in the pregnancy period right now of it.
That's awesome.
Nora, you want to ask our final question?
Sure.
Unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
This is a question that we ask every guest that comes on the show. And it is, if you had a private podcast with your life's ramblings, what would it be called?
If I had a private podcast with my life's ramblings, what would it be called? Okay, well, can I curse on here or no?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I can. Okay, so I'll tell you, I'm so bad with fast answers. I like need to give context. I'm such a context person. But on our team, we have been talking about a full body fuck yes. Like, we're only doing things if we are a full body fuck yes. So right now, that's what it would be called, because everything I'm saying yes or no to is measured against, is this a full body or is this
half-assed? Is that
I don't know what the in-between is, but I know, like, I just said no to a bunch of things that were not a full body fuck yes. So I'm feeling like that my ramblings are all going into that container of just, this is where I want to be in life right now. I don't want to, I just want to be like full body fuck yes to everything I'm doing, and everything else can go.
Love it.
That. So important too. And not easy to do sometimes.
No.
I think.
Definitely.
Yes.
Cool. Well, Nicole, thank you for coming on and giving us the behind the scenes. It was already a little prequel to maybe the behind the scenes of your 7-figure business. Yeah. Thank you for giving us behind the scenes of the funnel, the ads that we're seeing everywhere. Keep us posted how things are going. We would love to check in with you. And yeah, thanks for sharing everything today.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
Cool. Awesome. And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.